much for joining us this afternoon. This is super exciting. We're going to talk today about the biggest design sprint pushbacks. We see this as something highly interactive. So each of you guys are going to be able to share about your experiences, your pushbacks, everything, and we're here to share. And I see a lot of people are joining, so that's great. And yeah, maybe I'm going to share my screen as an introduction. And I will introduce my friend Sabrina. Hey, Sabrina.
Hey.
Maybe can you introduce your chapter?
Yes, thank you. So we have here kind of a joint venture of the chapter in Lausanne, Switzerland, and the chapter in Stuttgart, Germany. So yeah, we're really happy. Maybe this is a start of a series. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, and we are really happy to have you all here. We also promoted it via our channels. And yeah, I'm sitting here in Stuttgart in the Design Sprint studio and really happy to share our learnings with you.
So I'm Steph. I'm the founder of Design Sprint Ltd. We're based in Switzerland, and we are also the leaders of the Design Sprint chapter Switzerland. So we're based in Lausanne, which is a small city next to Geneva, not too far from Stuttgart and Munich, of course. And what you see here on the map are all the official Design Sprint chapters, the Google Sprint chapters, and we're one of them. And the other ones, they are really big cities like New York or Buenos Aires or Tokyo. And we are super glad to be a chapter, even being from Switzerland, a very small city. And yeah, what we're gonna do today, we're gonna share together virtually, because thank you, COVID, we have to do it through Zoom. But it's also a great opportunity for us to, to connect with everyone. Usually we do our meetups physically in the physical space, but we have to do it remotely, and it brings so many opportunities to connect, and it's great to have people joining from all over the world. So this is really, really cool. We won't talk too much about design sprints because I guess all of you guys know what the design sprint is. So we're gonna dive in into the pushbacks quite fast. But just so you know, the design sprint is a methodology. It's a 5-day bootcamp. It's a workshop of UX design. It was created by our friend Jake Knapp at Google. And now it has spread the word, and more people and companies are running design sprint on a regular basis. It's a very important methodology in innovation right now. It's very hot. A lot of people are excited and have a lot of questions about it. So we're here also to help you, to guide you, and to answer all your questions. And yeah, so we won't talk too much about the design sprint itself, but more about the pushbacks about design sprint. So yeah, Sabrina and I, we made kind of a compilation of the worst design sprint pushback we've heard. I don't know what you think, Sabrina, but we got rejected so much, right? So many people told us it's never gonna work, it's not for my company, and we made kind of a list, and we're gonna answer all of that.
Exactly.
So this is exciting.
And I think all of you experienced that, or let's say a lot of you experienced that as well.
So just to start, I'm still admitting some people are still joining. That's great. Just to start, I just want to see here, first of all, don't be shy, turn on your camera. We are here live with you. I just want to see if you can wave if you guys have been on the design sprint already. Okay, a lot of waving here.
Oh, yeah, nice.
That's great. That's cool. Amazing. How many of you guys have been organizing sprints yourself? Quite a lot.
Wow. We have the experts here.
This is great.
Yes.
And how many of you guys have experienced horrible pushbacks, like you got rejected so hard? Okay, that's good. This is fun, actually. So the way it's gonna work, basically, it's don't be shy. I mean, you can turn on you can turn on your microphones if you have something to say. I mean, it's great if most of the time you're on mute, but if you want to add something or you want to speak, don't be shy. Just unmute yourself and you can add something. You can bring your perspective. We're here to share. The idea is to exchange for like 1 hour or so, and then if you want, we're gonna do kind of a trial for a networking tool we're gonna use, and yeah, so it's gonna be in 1 hour or so. Great. Should we dive in?
I would like to start with the mural. So I share with you the mural I prepared. So what I always do, and this is amazing. So I can share quickly my screen with you to just let you know what we are doing here. So thanks for giving me the co-host. So this is the mural. You get the link in the chat, and you can put your questions here. You can see, let's say, everything about Steph and me here. Speaker corner. You have a lot of let's say information, and here, please network. So put your LinkedIn profile there. And what we left still underneath is, so we have these categories. You want to learn about design sprint, facilitators, and so on. And you can share your links. So we left the links from last time, and that's really interesting. So just add more links to that if you want to share something, or if you're looking for someone. So use that to network, and put your questions here if you have some. But we invited you already to contribute. Okay, that's from me. So let's start.
Okay, this is great. So I'm going to share my screen. We've made a list of the worst possible pushbacks. It's going to be fun, you will see. So the first one was proposed by Sabrina. So we don't know with which project to start, and we're not sure if the sprint is the right methodology for us. Maybe do you want to give a bit of context?
Okay, so usually this is something people say if they are, let's say, if they have a lot of responsibility, a lot of pressure as well, and if there are, let's say, in the company, a lot of, let's say, different methodologies, and they are in charge of the one decision, and it's a high pressure, and they are afraid of taking the risk, and always they are telling like, oh, it's good to fail fast. We want to implement this in our culture, but you see, it's very hard to do that. So this is, let's say, the thing behind that. So the fear and the scaring aspect behind that. Yeah. So we have some answers. Do you want to start, Steph?
Yeah. So that one is tricky because they are excited definitely about the design sprint, about the name of the design sprint, the methodology, and basically they're afraid to run a first design sprint and to kind of fail with them. So to kind of fail with the first design sprint. So I kind of guide them, like my answer is like, okay, we're gonna spend some time together and we're gonna look together if this is the right topic for you. And there is a cool tool that's called sprintfit.io that we have helped to develop. It was created by our friend Benoit Duboulot, and we have helped designing that tool. So you can go to sprintfit.io, and it's kind of a visual tool where you can, you put your sprint challenge, you put how much of time you have wasted, how much of money you have wasted, how much of a bigger deal that project is, and basically it's going to tell you this is a good challenge for a sprint, or it's not a good one. Sprintfit.io, and it works really well because it's very visual and it kind of reassures them that this is going to work for a sprint. And of course, I think our role as consultants and sprint masters experts is really to help them tailor the design sprint.
And what I would say as well, so what helps always is you say, oh, I understand. We can help you doing an opportunity sprint. So it's very short and you will have the confidence to find out what would work best after that? And actually the opportunity sprint, let's say it's an LDJ kind of workshop. You can also use an LDJ and just name it in another way, because let's say in Germany, Lightning Decision Jam doesn't work. Nobody has a clue about that. So you just need to frame that in a, let's say in words they understand. So it's about this person here, the person who is in charge, has the pressure, and how can you help this person? And so you have to use their words, their what they need. You have to find out what they need. Mm-hmm. So you already hear what we reframed, that they have a high pressure and responsibility. And now with the opportunity sprint on LDJ, they can share the responsibility because they integrate the team and they make a decision. You can also make a decision sprint, mm-hmm. for example.
I mean, that idea of problem framing or opportunity sprint, something that came a lot. I know that Jake Knapp is actually working on an opportunity sprint, something he's gonna share in the next month. I don't know, and definitely this is interesting. It's something you can do before, but yeah, the idea is really to help them frame the right challenge. And maybe just be honest, if the sprint is not the right methodology for them, maybe you can, give them a direction. Maybe you should use this tool. I think that's very important. Sabrina.
Yeah. For example, you could also just use a matrix and put all these projects into the matrix, and you ask them, okay, how big is the impact? How long it takes, And then you can also use something very simple to do that, and you could do that also with one person. So now I'm talking a lot, but maybe some of you has an experience, a recipe, maybe a story. Here where you had success or a big failure, however. If someone wants to speak up.
Or we can just go to the next one.
Yeah.
So the second one is we are doing sprints already, which is horrible to hear, because you're like, you think you come with something, new, fresh, exciting for everyone, and it's fairly new, usually the design sprint. So I'm kind of, when I come to a company, they're like, oh yeah, we're doing sprints already. What do you think, Sabrina, when you hear that?
It's very familiar. And can you raise your hand if you heard that already? Okay, here, yeah, I heard that a lot. And very often it's because of the Agile sprint, Scrum. So people are very familiar with that. It's more famous. It's already in the workflow of the companies. And then, okay, yeah, we are doing that already. So nothing new. It's just when they also hear the word design. So I'm a designer. And if people know me a bit, they know that I'm a designer. They think it's something about design. So yeah, they're already doing their own sprint and they know how it works. Mm-hmm. But actually...
You're bringing up a really important point, which is something that we've discovered. Hi, I'm Kayla. I'm out in Boston, and I'm working with Pegasystems. And one of the things that we realized is that a lot of people seem to think that a design sprint is a substitution for an agile sprint. And they don't understand the transition from the sprint to the delivery side, right? So it doesn't take the place of your agile sprint. It's in order to make your agile sprint more efficient. And what we discovered is that positioning it that way and describing the point of a design sprint is to get you to think in a much more broad, innovative way. To your earlier question, one of our biggest pain points is that we have clients that come in with absolutely preconceived notions of what the solution should be. And so if that's what they're going to do, then there's no point to do a sprint because they're closed-minded. They don't have the sort of the room in their minds to test the waters, right? So we spend a lot of time talking about design thinking and empathizing with the user and really getting them to appreciate why we are doing the sprint and what they can expect from the prototype. Because, sorry to go so long, but when you get a prototype, a lot of people who have not been through sprints, they think, oh, we build this prototype, we test the usability, and then we go build it exactly what we created, right? Instead of understanding or appreciating that the prototype is really intended to validate conceptually that the solution that you're heading towards is the right one, that it's feasible, that it's desirable, that it's viable, and so forth. Versus, and so net is that people do have a tendency to kind of confuse design thinking, design sprinting, and agile sprinting. What a mess.
Absolutely.
I'll shut up.
I think, it's the name design sprint is actually perfect. It's a very good name because it comes from the agile sprint, or it comes from, of course, design thinking. So the name is very clever, but yeah, it confuses people. So I think the first thing to do is like, wait, you know about design sprint, and then you show an example as fast as you can, or just to be sure that you're talking about the same thing. So there is no confusion. And what you said is exactly true. Is like most of the time they say, oh yeah, we do sprints. And this is actually great because like maybe they do agile sprint and they're already convinced by agile, and showing that it combines very well with agile. This is actually a seller. So you can, from something that is a pushback, you can make a seller. That's interesting. Sabrina. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one.
What I use usually is, so because I met a lot of these people, I just say one sentence that it's a perfect complement to that. And so it's great. So I embrace that they're doing sprints, which is I just celebrate it. And I say, it's great that you work agile in an agile way. And the design sprint is to complement that. Because I realized that if you just talk to someone and you don't know this person very well, so you don't have this trust established in that moment, you need a bridge. So it's not about, yes, but the design sprint is something else, but it's just, oh, great that you work like that. Look, design sprint is a good complement. And then usually they start listening, at least listen. So yeah, it's just another thing.
Can I just say one thing here as well?
Sure.
While you have various processes, and one of the processes is after acceptance is a discovery phase. Before they move into the sprint phase, you can also explain to them then that is a great place to have a design sprint. It's a kind of natural home for a design sprint, at least when they've got difficult issues and the thinking and functionality instead of outcomes. It's quite a good way of doing things.
Thanks for that.
Okay, so the next one, and I'm gonna share my screen. So, but it's a classic of the classics. It's we don't have the budget. I hate that one. It's the worst. So yeah, what do you say, Sabrina, when you hear that?
So what I hear behind that is I have a tight budget. So I think everyone in a company has limited budgets. If the budget is high or low, it's always limited, kind of. So, I don't have, it's not my priority. I think this is what I hear behind of that. So this is something I would say the first thing, what I hear behind that. And then you can just start thinking about, okay, or asking. I think here, this is an invitation to ask a lot of questions. So starting with, your project, how do you value your project? Or how do you value the time for your project? Sometimes what I use as well is talking about what they usually use as a process to develop the project.
Mm-hmm.
Steph?
I think, well, it's very interesting, the word, I don't have the budget, because I mean, if you are studying in the field, you're like, oh, they have no money. And you feel like you think they have no money and it's going to stop here. And with experience, you learn one thing is that I don't have the budget doesn't mean that they don't have any money. It means that they don't have the budget right now, on this project to run a sprint. And it's something, it took me time to realize that. But with the sprint, we are very upfront, of the whole project. Sometimes we even come before the project because you need to run a sprint to actually discover that this is worth building. And then this becomes a project and then you get the budget. So it's very hard to have budget for something that doesn't exist at this point. So what I tell them is like, okay, but maybe you have budget in the HR department, or you have budget for digital transformation, or for getting new skill sets for your team. And they're like, oh yeah, of course we have budget for that. So I'm like, so maybe you can take part of these budgets to actually run an innovation workshop, at least your first design sprint. Most of my first design sprint, they don't come from a project, they come from HR, they come from like training. And I think this is something it took me time to understand that.
So maybe I could add something to that. I think, so I struggle also very often at the very beginning. So when you meet a person, and what I think is also very valuable to ask about what is the value of the project for yourself. So if you don't think only about the project or the product and the company, but also at the person, because the person, let's say if it's an innovation manager or a product manager, they have own tasks, like they have a responsibility, and maybe they have also an agenda because they need to finish this project in that amount of time, or they should not use more money than X, Y, Z. So I think this is also very valuable to ask for the personal value of this project for this person. And then you can just take this as a starting point for more questions.
Mm-hmm. I would like to hear you guys. So who had this pushback, we don't have budget, and what was your reaction and your answer to that? I mean, it doesn't need to come from design sprints, right? It could be in any other type of workshop or project. Annette, yeah.
Yeah, mostly it's not about the money, but it's about having the people to join for 1 week. So this is what most people fear. And what I did back then was I had a private group of people who were just interested in discovering the method. And I did it on myself with those other people. And I then presented the things we discovered. And after 2 years, it got finally into a product. So it was a private initiative just to prove that the method works. And now we have a product. But not everybody is, I would say, fine to invest his own time away from that. But I just wanted to do it. And now we can have design sprints within the company based on that experience.
Sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm. This is
Steph, I would add on what Annette said. This is Adrian. I think before people push back on the budget, the pushback is I don't have time and resources. And in order to deal with that, I think before you even introduce the idea of the design sprint or whatever method you want to employ there, I think the workaround is to do some problem framing with them. And once you enable them to understand what are the type of problems they want to solve, you could figure out, based on value / impact and effort, plot them in terms of where, these problem statements fit in those 4 quadrants. And when you actually end up with the problem statements that they want to work on, then the conversation is much more, accessible, so to speak.
This is actually
about, figuring out how to frame up the idea of a sprint so that the question isn't, well, why am I spending this money? Why do we need to do this? We've already done all this research. So if you frame it up as that a design sprint can accelerate your agile development, that it's intended to sort of examine from all different perspectives the problem space so that your build moves efficiently and effectively and you save money in the long run, that I found that a good argument or a good way to sort of frame it up.
Yeah, and Gail, the other thing is even if people are introduced to design sprints or other methodologies, if the problem that they're tackling is too overwhelming, they revert back to old ways of problem solving. So carefully curating problem statements during the problem framing phase not only enables you, exactly, it not only enables you to get the right buy-in at the top.
I think we lost Adrian. I'm gonna try to turn on.
I think he was automatically muted, so maybe you unmute. Can you unmute yourself again?
Adrian?
Sorry.
I did,
Okay.
but I don't know what happened. Okay, I think you guys get the point.
Problem framing. No, this is great. Yeah, because you get the right people on the problem framing on board. Yeah, and they see the value of the sprint. That's the perfect transition actually to our next pushback, which is really tied to budget, of course, but it's the resources. So I'm just gonna share my screen so you see it written. It's the classic. Wait, you need the team to work the whole day for 5 days, but they have work to do. So Sabrina, can you give me a bit of context?
Yeah, so I think there you see a misconception which let's say a lot of team leads have, that they have to do productive work. So the team is in charge of doing productive work and not thinking work. So it's more about either they have an external agency who brings in ideas, or they are doing that themselves. So the managers, the team leads, the board, they are responsible for thinking. But this is a misconception, and I think this is to tackle. So this is behind that, what I hear behind this expression, this pushback.
The way I react, I'm kind of, I'm faking surprise, you know, when they say that, and I say, wait, but when you're saying that your teams have work to do, you are thinking that we're not gonna work during the sprint? Like, are we gonna play bowling, or we're gonna do a paintball, or what? And you know, and they start to laugh, and they see how absurd it is, because of course it's work, and it's very hard work. I can see during the sprint people working 2 times more than what they will do in general. So that's the first thing I answer. Normally it kind of works. The second thing is like to tell them about the structure of the sprints and of the days. We kind of start the workshop pretty late, like around 10 a.m. in the morning, meaning that they have time before the sprint to do their busy work, which is emails or all what they have to do, Slack, whatever. So they are not frustrated when they come on the sprint. And when you say that, and they see that the methodology was designed for actually integrating this type of busy work, but before the sprint, then yeah, they are way more reassured actually that people do have time, and they can commit the days.
You could also start with telling them, hey, amazing, yeah, they will work like crazy. So you just turn it around and turn the blocker around to yes, embrace it. Yeah, sure, they will work. They will work like crazy in this design sprint, and they will. And maybe then you point out 2 things. So what I collected in the last months and years, what is important for companies is, but they will deliver a prototype which is worth 1,000 meetings and tested with real users. And on top of that, they will improve massively the teamwork within your team, and they create team alignment. So team alignment is, I think, the top, and make it tangible with a prototype that will be tested in a short amount of time. So yeah, that's.
I saw that. I think Andrea, you wanted to speak.
Yeah. Yes, I did. All I was going to say was that when we were trying to talk to colleagues about the value of design sprints, we ran a series of lightning decision jams, part of a sprint, so that people got an idea of what they would do. And we actually did that in order to sort of warm the team up, but also then help them so that when we got to our big problem definition workshop that we did, everyone was kind of warmed up, ready to go. They knew that they weren't just going to sit and write on Post-its and it would be like every other workshop they'd ever done. It was really focused, and there would be an outcome straight away within the time they were with us. And actually that shifted a lot of perception for us.
Yeah, this is great. You always need to have a good case study to show, whether it's inside the company, which is the best because you do a first sprint that is a success and then that you can show, or yeah, you come with your own case studies from different companies or different in the same industry so they can relate. And I think, Andrea, you work in culture, so it's a very specific field. Yes. And it's so good to come with cultural design sprint before.
Yeah.
All right. Ready for the next one? It's a bad one.
Yes.
I hate it. Okay, then, but can we just read the book and do it by ourselves?
Okay, I would say, wow.
I hate it.
I didn't face that exactly in this way. So people usually don't come with, I read the book, but it's more like, oh, I think we should learn it ourselves. And then it's like, okay, it's amazing because we have to run a lot of design sprint in this world and in the future. And so as many people as possible should learn about the design sprint. So it's just, yeah, we can train you and we can help you to make your team fit for a design sprint. So I think it's always about turning around the pushback to something positive, to start a conversation and to start asking more questions. I think this is always the point. So exactly for me, it was never that someone said, oh, I already read the book, I will do that myself. But I love this quote, yeah.
Okay, so it actually occurred to me. And at first I hated it because it kind of feels like you are useless as a facilitator and, you know, just anyone can read the book and run a sprint and just nail it. And I don't believe it's true. But what I can say now is I have very good case studies and experiences of companies with whom we have run the first sprints and now they run them by themselves. And I think this is really powerful. It's like, okay, so your ultimate goal is to run design sprint by yourself. I get it. That's really smart, actually. So the way we're gonna do, you're gonna run your first sprints with us because we have a lot of experience running these, and you're gonna learn a ton of things. You're gonna not do the mistakes we have done at the beginning, and you can learn basically from the way we run sprints. And yeah, we are here to teach and mentor your team. So I think for us, it's also an opportunity to running the first sprints and then kind of selling mentorship along the way. And yeah, I like that quote. It's like you have to teach them how to fish. And that's the way I see it. I'm not kind of growing my field and selling my services, but I want the companies to integrate the design sprints. And yeah, I think it's interesting. From a pushback, you can make something valuable.
So something I also faced is something similar, and that there are some companies, let's say bigger agencies or also IT companies, they want to run that for their clients. And so they are looking for help. They are looking for help like running design sprints for their clients, but also then thinking about, okay, but we could also do that ourselves. So this is something which happened also quite often, even more often. And then that big companies want to run it themselves. And I think here it's amazing opportunity to just start helping them, because it's not only that you help their teams to just learn about the process, learn about how to facilitate, but also how do you communicate? Because we all know all these problems. And what I hear very often is that they say, yeah, we want to do that, or maybe you can do a design sprint for us, for our client, and then you don't hear back. And if you ask, oh yeah, but the client, he doesn't want, or he want to make that later or next year or whatever. So it's actually the same what we are facing. So I think that's quite interesting. So you can also help them with the right communication.
Cool. So I see some great pushbacks coming in the chat. Maybe the first one, we are already doing design thinking. Yes, sounds familiar. How do you? So François, how did you answer that one?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, when you see the teams spending time on design thinking, it takes time. Huh?
Yes.
I mean, it's really a long process. Sometimes we lost ourselves in designing the personas and so on. So it's a very long process, and because it's long, it's perceived also as being complete, and that's why it's difficult also to sometimes say, okay, can we reduce that into the design thinking time so we will have a result in no time? But sometimes you feel some pushback because they say, okay, well, it's not enough user-centric, and so on and so forth, and we don't spend enough time into what's need to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I use to explain what is the difference between design thinking and design sprint in this case is that I explain how real the prototype should look like, and that you really nail it and you get very, let's say, concise feedback on a realistic looking prototype, which is very different from a design thinking prototype. And I also tell them that it's a process where they get the things done in only, let's say, I always talk about 1 week. We are doing 4 days, but anyway, I always talk about 1 week. So design thinking, so my experience, what people tell me when I ask them is either they have like an ongoing, always, let's say each week, a design thinking session, or let's say just a brainstorming session. So it varies. It's various what they tell me about how they what they know about design thinking.
I have a very visual way to show them. I have this slide, and I'm like, oh, does it sound familiar? So what I'm saying is that it's great. That design thinking is great. I mean, it's a great philosophy, and it's great that they're already doing design thinking because they get it. So this is great news. But the design sprint is, I think, Graham, you wrote that in the chat. It's a practical recipe that's efficient in 5 days. So it's probably the best way to demonstrate the power of design thinking is to run a design sprint. So it's not design thinking bad or design sprint good. It's a way to actually do good design thinking within 5 days, and that delivers results.
Yeah, love that.
So I have some more. Wait.
I have, there's another one. We don't need that. We know the market. That's a nice one. We don't need that. That's great. Done. What do you tell your clients if they tell you just, we don't need that?
This was one particular client, and it was kind of if it can be a little bit rude, a personality disorder. They know better, and they just don't want to hear about it. But the problem is, at least was good for us. They discovered that they had so many problems they were ignoring, they still came back. And we had proven with other products for the same company that we were really making huge progress. So one very big problem they had touched on another design sprint we were running for another product, and we were able to solve a very big problem for them in the process. And that's how we won. It's kind of like don't show, or show, don't tell. Eh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay, wait for this one. Maybe next year we'll have a new innovation project Q3.
Yeah, happened to me also several times. So I think we know that some companies, they have a lot of time for innovation. And I think also that is, if we look behind the curtain, what is that? They are afraid of taking responsibility. I think this is a lot of time behind these pushbacks. And yeah, it's if they plan ahead, 1 year ahead for their innovation, you can ask them, maybe then you are later than your competitors. Your competitors, they are starting now, and you have to be aware of your competitors. So innovation is something you have to start yesterday. And let's say the best time to start innovation was yesterday, and the second best time is today, not next year.
I think what I bring at this point is like, it's very hard to plan innovation in a rational way, and to predict that in next year you're gonna have innovation projects. It's not a good sign. And what I tell them is like the most innovative companies worldwide, they have sprints maybe once a quarter, or like at a regular rhythm, regular pace, and they don't know what they're gonna be sprinting on in 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, but they know they're gonna have the space for a sprint. And this, I think, is very interesting. So it's not really you need to have the perfect project in order to run the sprint. It's more to make some space. You have that week to run a sprint, and you know what? You're gonna find the right project or the right problem to run a sprint. There are so many problems right now. It's a very good time actually to run sprints. There was an amazing one from Kayla in the chat. Maybe you want to tell it? The good old standby pushback.
I have to go off mute. It's just, I don't get it.
Great one.
The people that are just like, I don't get it. I don't understand why we should do this.
Awful. And what was your answer?
Honestly, my standard answer when people say, well, explain to me then, why should we sprint? And I just sort of go, well, do you want the short answer or do you want the long answer? The short answer is people sprint because it works. Period. It does. And then being able to explain to them why it works, and the fact that, one of the things we've struggled with, I'm going to take a little left, that we've struggled with in transitioning from an in-person sprint to a virtual sprint is finding the right rhythm, right? Because asking people to sort of like buckle down for 5 days virtually is a really tough ask. So what we've started to do is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, everybody gets their Friday back, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you get your Friday back, you get your Monday to kick off your week, and then we do Tuesday, Wednesday. And that's our 5-day sprint. And it also provides a little bit more time for the designer to address the prototype and so forth, and have a little bit of time for back and forth with, a client, subject matter expert or whatever. But once they start to understand that it's about the momentum and the cumulative effect, and this idea that we reinforce creative constraints, and yes, we make people draw, and we, get them to think in a very different way, in a more resourceful way, it allows them to look at a problem they think they know really well with fresh eyes. And when you start to sort of, tackle it from that perspective, and get them to really latch on to the idea that one last time, you're going to thoroughly examine this so that you stop wasting time on the tail end, reworking and redeving and all that. So then it becomes an easier sell. But I find that you have to give them a quick answer because it works. And then they're like, well, why does it work? So you got to hook them.
And typically, what do you show them, kind of as a proof that it works? Is it case studies? Is it?
It's case studies, and it's also I think having. Sometimes we have the advantage that we'll be working with a company. I don't know. Let's say it's a healthcare company like Blue Cross Blue Shield or something, and we've done some work with one group. That's obviously the easiest way to sell it to the next group, is to say, well, go talk to your coworkers and they can tell you all about how groovy it is. You'll love it. Yeah. So that's the easiest case scenario. But when you're trying to sort of do the hard sell, that sort of hard pitch, being able to point to the fact that sometimes you're so entrenched in your own processes that you can't get out of your own way. And what a design sprint does is it basically takes that knot and loosens it enough that there's room to think again, there's room to move again. And so then you can start to see forward motion. And I think that that's also something that clients tend to latch on to, is get her done. I don't care what you have to do, but get her done, right? So the easiest way to do that is to provide a little bit of room for all these people who have gotten so entrenched and so dug in about their ideas that you say to you, one of the things I think that we struggle with is people going in with a preconceived notion of the solution. So they go, okay, yeah, we're all here ready to sprint. And then they get into the room and all they're doing is pushing their agenda and pushing the solution they already have in their heads. And so I think a big part of the facilitator's job is to make sure that your client team, your client participants are not choking the creative process by imposing preconceived solutions or preconceived notions. That's the toughest thing to manage, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it's probably why it's better to run design sprint with an external facilitator who is kind of more neutral to the group than with someone in-house, especially if you're in the same team, because otherwise you can get biased. Great, let's jump to the next one. It's a tough one.
Thanks so much, Carla.
Yeah. I'm not sure I can convince my CEO. Tough one. So, Sabrina.
I think that stands for all the getting buy-in from your stakeholders, especially if you are not the team lead. So I think there, I usually start with asking, how can I help you with that? So where are the biggest pushbacks? So it's like the pushbacks we get, try to answer them through that person. So having them, let's say, armored, so you have to give them value, you have to give them everything so that they are able to convince the CEO. So you can start with a workshop, like an LDJ, to convince them to just start small. I think this is a good way.
Mm-hmm. There, I see.
And you have something nice, Steph. Show.
Actually, I have a tip to share about that, to convince the CEO, because it means two things. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to convince my CEO to approve the sprint and to get, the buy-in to run a sprint. And also, I don't know if I'm going to convince my CEO to be part of the sprint, to be the decider on the sprint. And this is actually key. I mean, if you can get the CEO or someone really high up in the hierarchy to be part of the sprint, it's kind of have success already. It's going to deliver some value. It's going to deliver some sponsorship about what you do and the importance of the project. So if you can get the CEO on board, it's amazing. And a lot of time, the people with whom I'm talking to, they're like project manager, and they assume that the CEO won't be interested in participating in the sprint. And what I do is that I actually have photo albums of really famous CEO in Switzerland, like CEO of banks, for example, with me on the sprint. And they were with me on the sprint. They were like little kids. They were so excited to actually be on the sprint. I have these photos and I show them. And I'm like, you see these guys? They are famous. They're on the newspaper. They were on the sprint. And then they're like, oh, really? Like they were excited doing that. And I was like, of course, these guys, they are not CEO randomly. They are CEO because they are entrepreneurs or they are makers themselves. They have been building things themselves. And they love that. They love to be part of this. They don't want to just pay some people to do that exciting work. So usually CEOs and VPs or people very high up, they love it. And as soon as you show them, you get the excitement.
Exactly. And if you talk to let's say, not to the CEOs, but to the maybe just UX designers, this is what I get very often. I talk to UX designers. So if you have to give them the confidence, okay, they will love it. I think this is the first thing. You have to build trust with them and to give them the confidence so that they start telling their CEOs, because I think this is the point. They have to take responsibility. They have to take action in that. So you have to make them confident so that they start going to their CEOs, to their team leads, and show them the photos or just tell them the story and invite them to, let's say, a small or a design sprint. I think this is something also, I think creating the confidence in these people is key here.
I think also, now that we have COVID and we're all having to do this virtually, one of the things that that I've found effective, because it's true, you have to beat the drum slowly and let that rhythm sort of infiltrate. And then as soon as you hear somebody sort of using your words back at you, you're like, okay, we've cracked the code. We've made it through to the other side, because somebody wants to own it. People love to own the concept of design thinking. And tools like Miro and tools like Mural and Sprint Base is also another one. But Mural, I think, is probably my favorite. When you can run small meetings and have small discussions where you just use a tool like that, that makes people go, oh, cool, what is this? Oh, well, this is a tool that we use during design sprints where we do a whole full-blown, cumulative exercise, blah, blah, blah. That sometimes is another way to sort of just get them to sort of, it's like shiny toy. And then, and then there's a little bit, it piques interest. So just a suggestion.
Yeah, this is a nice idea. Actually, now with the remote facilitation, still I hear a lot of, oh, let's wait until, these. But I think it's changes now. So I think a lot of them, a lot of companies also think about not only about COVID, but also, okay, we don't have to travel so much. So I think this is a good way to introduce the design sprint, or let's say, with the virtual way in the remote setup.
So maybe something that I would like to share. So I actually introduced design sprint to the previous company I worked at Deloitte. And I was the facilitator for my own teams. And what I actually did was I made sure that the first 2 days were kind of open for public. So if you would join, you had to join the full 2 days and really have the whole notify stuff. And then based on how many people we would have, for example, the first week, the week we would have the first 2 days, 2 different design sprints, and then merge them together on Wednesday. And depending on how many we have after that, it would be the same topic or slightly different topics. But what you could see is that the management actually wanted to join all the time. So we had C-level joining all the time, and then also inviting them on Friday to see the results and the feedback. And that was for them the magical moment where they were like, wait, what did we miss for the last couple of days? What happened? And it's really, the ball started rolling completely, and we got so many new enthusiastic people. Yeah.
It's really exactly great. That. In my experience, that sprint I've run with the CEOs, the first sprint, they went here and they came on Friday to look at the results. They were blown away. They were like, wait, we need to organize a new sprint and we're going to be there. And the CEO and the CTO and the head of marketing, they were here. And it's so powerful. Yeah. I mean, the best way, you invite people on day 1 or day 3 when there are all these ideas, or day 5 when you watch the videos or watch the test live, it is super exciting. And after seeing that, no one ever is going to tell you, oh, wait, but were you working this week? There's no question.
The other thing too that I would add to that we've started doing, we've added sort of like little extra half-hour recaps at 2 points in our sprints. At the end of day 5, obviously you've gone through your usability testing, everybody's kind of spent, they're really kind of exhausted, they're not really interested in digging through all of the post-its and all of that. So what we do is we get them to organize them a little bit, and then we release everybody, we do sort of a formal organization of it, and then we have a debrief at the end where we invite them back to confirm how we have organized everything. It allows us to discuss what the findings are. And and it's a great time for executive leadership to listen in. So if and we did it for like half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, tends to run over because people want to keep talking. But I've discovered that it's a really great way to offer that insight without disrupting the sprint. and also, provide a stepping point for further discussion with senior leadership. The other point is, since we run ours in this Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday sort of format, between the two sections of the sprint, we also do a check-in with between the design team and the technical team. And it's basically a feasibility exercise to make sure that we're not selling anything to the client that we can't actually deliver. So we want to make sure that, whatever solution we're suggesting to them is actually possible. And that's also a really great time, especially when you have like a CTO or somebody like that, to sit in on that conversation. Again, 30 minutes, just to sort of it's just a check-in, and has been very effective.
Thank you for that, Kayla. We have a last one. We have a last one for you. That is kind of time sensitive, but it's really about now. I've heard that a lot these last weeks, to kind of refuse going on a sprint or whatever. We have been impacted by COVID, so and it's a thing that came a lot. So did you hear that? Did you get some workshops canceled? How did you deal with that?
Can you just put your hands up if it happened to you that you get pushbacks because of COVID? Yeah, me as well. So yeah, it's you can. I think every company is tackling that problem. So you can just tell them, sorry to hear that, or what I say is, sorry to hear that. But with the design sprint, it's a great methodology, a great tool to turn that into an opportunity and to innovate. I know that's still hard, but just use that as an opportunity. And I think this is the only way to tackle that. You have to just pivot. You have to change your perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I think my answer is, there are really two types of companies right now. There are some that are just waiting that everything will go back to normal and they will start doing the same thing again and selling the same thing like they used to do before. And there are some companies that just use that time to explore new things, new ideas, new businesses, new revenue streams. And it's the best time ever to explore, especially that the teams are not working full speed now. So people do have more time. And it's probably a great competitive advantage to run design sprints right now for some companies, because you accept that it's a bad situation for everyone, and these are bad times, and you need to use that time in a meaningful way, and also keep the energy and the people together. Even if we work remotely, I think we have been demonstrating that you can run remote workshops that works, create momentum, and create excitement. And in all that COVID time, the best weeks of this COVID month were actually the design sprint weeks for me. So yeah, that's my answer.
Great. I also hear, and I think that that is something also very common, that the COVID situation is used as, can I get a discount, please? Blocker. Yeah, I read that here from Abel. Yeah, greetings to the Philippines.
Abel, do you want to share?
It's in the middle of the night in the Philippines.
Oh, really?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's 11 p.m. 11 p.m.
Wow.
Here. Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks, Stephen, Steph, for the time as well. Well, the client just asked for, because I would say the COVID situation really hit the Philippines hard. So they've been asking for discounts. Well, I did give, because it was an old client, but you sort of have to empathize with the client's situation as well. And I also say that we've been hit by the COVID situation too. So let's just work or negotiate for better terms, I would say. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you can empathize and just say, okay, I understand you. I give you some percentage. I think that's totally fine. It depends a bit on if this is real, so if they really suffer or not, let's say I would prefer to do a design sprint for non-profit for no money at all, and charging their companies, they have the money also in the right way. So kind of shared responsibility, but it depends a bit. You need the feeling for your clients.
Mm-hmm. Actually, during this month of COVID, I've run some sprints I never thought would be possible. We run sprints with NGOs on several continents with remote tools. We had never done that before. We run sprints in culture for festival. You know, all the music festivals have been impacted by COVID. So, you know, it's new opportunities. It's potential new clients who are not crazy cool startups or in innovation. It's also a matter of fixing problems, surviving, finding new business keys, and I think it's a great time for these types of workshops. Not only design sprint, but we need to find a way to get people to work together, and the sprint is just a really good way to do it. Amazing. Does anyone want to share a last pushback?
We have here. Do we have more? So I just want to thank you. You are so amazing, engaged. I'm really impressed about that. So you're writing a lot into the chat.
Yeah, it was really, it was amazing for us to run this conversation with you, because it's like we wanted to make it more like a real conversation, sharing, not just a webinar. And yeah, so thank you so much for interacting that much and chatting. And this is crazy. I didn't have time to read everything, but it was.
I have something. I found something which we didn't tackle. So is it enough to have only 5 users? Is this the right quality? I think it should be hundreds. So this is, I think, also very common. Yeah, what people say. So it's they are skeptical. Only 5 users. Yeah. So I see also a lot of answers, and thanks for all of you sharing already answers and links. We have to keep that. I hope we can keep that. You have to take care of that, Steph, or your tech stuff in the background. Please take care of that. But you can also share your links on the mural board. So we will keep that. Like you saw, I also kept all the links and everything which is on the board, not the profiles, but all the other stuff, so that everyone who comes in the next meetups can benefit from that. I think that's very valuable if you are sharing stuff there. So
great.
I think. So the answer was, just to tell you, there's a Nielsen study, and this is also what I just mentioned, that this already 5 is the smallest pattern, the smallest amount of people to create a pattern. And there's a study. And if you mention Nielsen, I think this is an authority. So no doubt about that. You're muted.
Just before you all leave, I just wanted to advertise.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to advertise. In 9 days, we are running a crazy cool event. It's going to be a world first for us. It's called iToday Innovation Today Summit. And yeah, it's going to be all virtual. So you can access from everywhere in the world, especially if you're in Europe, Africa, and all the Americas. It's August 20 to 21st. And we're going to have live online sessions with Kai Halley. So she's the head of the Sprint Master Academy at Google. She's the head of UX process at Google. Of course, Mr. Jake Knapp, who is the creator of the design sprint, the inventor of the methodology, is going to be here. We're going to have Alex Osterwalder and Yves Pinger. They are the writers of Business Model Canvas, Value Proposition Canvas, and the Invincible Company. So many great minds are going to be with us, and we hope you guys will be with us too. I mean, half of the Sprint community will be part of this summit, and I hope I can convince the other half.
I would like to know who didn't hear yet about this amazing conference.
Such a shame.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
great.
I'm running some ads, like crazy targeting Sprint Masters, but you're really hard to target, So
I have a very quick question about it, but I saw that there are two types of tickets, to follow it live or to follow it afterwards. What would you say is the benefit of following it live rather than afterwards?
So the live, so we have two types of tickets. Actually, live, we have the all access, which gives you the Zoom. So you will be in the Zoom with us. So you will be asking questions, not to me, but to Jake Knapp or to Kai or to Alex in person. And the live stream, you are kind of watching the live stream and you're going to be able to react on Slack, but you are not in the chat room. So that's the difference. And then replay, well, it's just like TV. So it's great TV, but it might feel a bit frustrating if you have questions to ask and if you want to interact more. We have two last speakers to announce. So he's already on the website. The next one is not. So Thomas Wiesel, probably you have never heard of him, but he's huge in Switzerland. So in my country, he's the #1 stand-up comedian in Switzerland. He's amazing. He has 200,000 followers in Switzerland, which is the smallest country ever in the world. So he's really fun. He's gonna do it in English, of course. And yeah, he's really amazing, so don't miss him. And he's gonna be doing some stand-up acts during iToday. And are you ready for the last speaker? I'm announcing to you, it's word first because it's not already on the website. We're gonna welcome the Captain Paul Watson, who is a Nico warrior. He's a star of ecology because he's the founder of Sea Shepherd. So he's one of the co-founders of Greenpeace, and he's the founder of Sea Shepherd, and he's going to be with us during iToday live. So you guys are going to be able to meet him, ask him questions, and this is amazing for us to have him. He's huge, and yeah, he's just a hero. He had a show on Discovery Channel, and so he's a real pirate. And yeah, we are super, super psyched to have him. So my last slide is this one. If you want to be part of iToday, just go on this URL, summit.itoday.ch, and you have a very nice coupon. It's 15% off on all the tickets. So that's it for the marketing. Whew. And if you guys want to network right now and help us test the networking platform of iToday, you can stay. So Egle is going to share a link with you on the chat of Zoom. Yeah, live.remo.co. You can click on that link using Google Chrome, and we can meet on the other side. And you will see you kind of have a virtual room where you can go from table to table and chat with everyone. So hopefully it works, and we can meet on the other side and test all of this. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you a big round of applause. It was amazing. You can unmute yourself because I look weird all alone.
Thank you.
This is great.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. And if you want to network, please meet us on Remo. Cheers.